First, what I decided to do was put together a white paper and float that through the university. So I put together a description of what I thought we should do with the environment, and from a very high level, how the university could get involved.
Jim was a great one for white papers, and he would come up with an idea and write up a white paper and float that.
So Jim, very progressive, great ideas, always moving everything forward, came to me with this great plan of how to develop a tech center. And he thought he had some funding sources, and of course we supported him and said, go to it, Jim.
I sent it up, got it through the dean, he was supportive of that here at the College of Business. And then I sent it to the president. Well, I got an answer, no. And I said, oh, I must not have done that right, because I'm right. I just didn't do it correctly. So a year later, I sent another white paper up, and then the answer I got back to that was yes.
And he was actually able to approach the Economic Development Administration and get them to commit to funding it.
I got 2 calls from 2 individuals that wanted to run the tech center. They're both CEOs of billion-dollar-a-year sales companies.
Well, actually, how it came to my attention, there was an article in the paper about how the Small Business Development Center had received a grant for an incubator, and Jim was quoted. So, knowing Jim and having done some things with the SBDC, I called him and said, Jim, I see you've got a grant, and how's it going? Because I had some interest in possibly helping out or whatever.
I had a lot of experience with John teaching entrepreneurial classes, and his experience as a CEO was pretty invaluable. But I also knew he could relate that down to a small business.
Once we got into it, then Jim said, well, yeah, he said, I need a lot of help. And Jim was always good at recruiting help. So I said, well, I'll help.
This was kind of a strange deal that you have people show up and say, hey, I want to do that, not knowing what we could pay and all that. So, and then the outcome of that was we hired John Glarham. Well, the architect said, oh yeah, you could build that for $45 a square foot. Well, he was only off by $15 a foot.
The real conclusion was, we're never going to get this all done for $2 million and $50 a square foot.
So that's when we scaled back the amount that we're going to finish. But we went into the shell to be there, and they said, well, then we'll figure out how to do that, the rest of it later.
And then somebody said, there's no door here. And I said, well, yeah, we couldn't afford the doors.
Like, there was just these huge holes in the ceiling, and air blew out of them. The air didn't get directed anywhere. So it would create like wind tunnels in offices.
And then the early stages, it was really a startup. I mean, I remember Jim and I being over there lifting up walls and putting them together, and everybody sort of pitched in to get it going.
We'd have a work day, the SBC would go over on a Friday, and we'd all put up petitions.
And I remember there was one day where they needed help putting up cubicle walls. So we all put on our jeans and our t-shirts and stuff and went over to the tech center and put up walls.
I mean, we were doing everything you do in a small business.
And John, God bless him, he was cleaning toilets and everything else. And so you hear, again, a CEO of a billion-dollar-a-year company, and he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. So I think that was a cool deal.
Now it's a really exciting time at the Tech Center. We have a beautiful new building, we have these amazing clients to work with, and we are thrilled to be building the success stories of the future.
The Tech Center, as it's developed, has been, I think, a real hallmark. Especially, we take great pride in it as being part of the College of Business and Economics.
It is a fabulous asset, part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in the Treasure Valley.
The Tech Center is a major enhancement for business activity.
The Tech Center is really critical for improving the economy.
The Tech Center is a great resource to the community.
And this is going to sound corny, but I think of it as kind of the golden goose.
Small businesses that have incubated out there and had the opportunity to grow that I don't think they'd have had otherwise.
A much higher number of those that came out of there have succeeded.
So you have the right resources, the right time to keep that accelerated growth going this way.
Every time Jim would upgrade a TV in his home, he'd always give me his old TVs. So I actually ended up with more TVs than I had room for in my house because he kept upgrading. And it got to the point where I had to start giving them away to other people. So,
and the quote from him was, work is my middle name, but play is my first.
Well, Jim is not an especially funny person.
We make our small talk and, how are you doing? Good. How are you doing? Good. Awesome.
That always got to be sort of the running joke was, what's Ritter doing with the P card this week?
I always thought Jim was pretty straight-laced until I was at my first Rotary conference, and he was one of the people, along with Kevin Learned, inciting us younger impressionable members to sneak out the back door and go drink wine elsewhere.
He had this knack of kind of identifying with the challenges of the tech center and then just kind of saying, yeah, I'm sure you'll take care of it.
As we've been friends over the last 7 or 8 years, we've always tried to outdo each other with who could find the best bottle of wine for the cheapest price.
And how's that? And who's ahead?
Jim's ahead. He's way cheaper than I am.
Just positive,
Jim is one of the kindest people that I know.
fun,
Super nice.
very passionate.
Some would call stingy or cheap.
He just worked things out.
Well, I'd say Jim is a man of integrity. His word, you can count on it. He has a great work ethic. It would be hard to find somebody of his equal.
But none of this would have happened without him. I mean, we can see the evidence of the Tech Center, but through his career at the SBDC, he was well known and well respected throughout the country.
I didn't really know Jim when I hired him to be the director of the Idaho Small Business Development Center, but over the years since, we have become very close friends. He and Carla and my wife, Amy, and I. We've traveled together to Europe. We're going to Italy together to go skiing. Jim and Carla, it's just a pleasure and an honor to be your friends.